Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fuck Drops here for another episode of the grades GPA that I do. GPA is since I'm in college instead of regular grades, A, B, and C grading teams that are not currently playing. Right now we're doing the Minnesota Wild, so state of hockey fans, please tune in. Or anyone who really wants to have any interest in this special, we're grading the players, management, talking which young player has stepped up, which older player needs to step up for the team. And because I know you people may or may not be watching the game currently, it's going on game 3 of the Avalanche and the Sharks. I will be having live updates of that right now. That's 4:50 left, and it's scoreless in game 3. I'm going to begin to talk about the Minnesota Wild. Oh, and just a quick update from the Sharks game. Logan Couture has just scored with 4:36 left, so it's 1-0 San Jose and Denver. Quick update for that. So that's good for any Sharks fans. Not good for any Avalanche fans, of course. To the Minnesota Wild, they were 37 and 36 and 9, with 83 points. They were 5th in the Western Conference and I believe 7th in the Central Division, last in the Central Division. They were a team that consistently made the playoffs, but ended up just tanking and falling out of it at about the end part of the regular season. We'll look at some of their scores that didn't quite come through. We'll look first at centers. The center, Joel Eriksson Ek. Eriksson Ek, a 22-year-old phenom, in like 58 games played for the Minnesota Wild, scoring 7 goals, notching 7 assists, and gathering 14 points for the Minnesota Wild. Eric Fehr, the former Capital, a 33-year-old center, 72 games played for him, scoring 7 goals, notching 8 assists and 15 points. So, decent. Mikko Koivu, the oft-injured captain, only played in 48 games. He scored 8 goals and 21 assists, 29 points. 29 points for 48 games played isn't terrible. Mikko isn't his brother's scoring, and doesn't have his brother's scoring touch, so it wasn't really that bad. Victor Rask, this was a move that I initially thought was a good one for the Minnesota Wild, but the Pominville trade did not go their direction as of yet. But they got 49 games played with him between Carolina and Minnesota, scoring 3 goals, notching 6 assists, and 9 points. Not good. Victor Rask, Eric Stahl, one of the big guys, a former Hurricane and Ranger. He comes in. He just signed a 2-year contract after already being signed, so he looks to kind of continue his run with Minnesota, a 34-year-old, playing in 81 games, scoring 22 goals, notching 30 assists and 52 points for the Minnesota Wild. That's actually good for a player that was supposed to be on his downturn. He had an amazing stretch as a really young superstar with the Carolina Hurricanes, and then when he was traded to the New York Rangers, nothing seemed to go his way, but he's kind of found his way back as a member of Minnesota. Nico Sturm, young 23-year-old. He played two games though, and no points, but the potential is sky high for this kid. For the GPA, I would give the centers, I would give about a 0.6, which is very low, but it's just that I didn't see enough. I like the centers there. I think they have good talent, but I didn't see the output, the work in it. It can improve, almost like an improving grade. It can improve, but it just wasn't there this season. Look at Pontus Aberg, the former Duck player, 25-year-old, played 59 games, scoring 12 goals, notching 13 assists for 25 points. J.T. Brown, the former Tampa man, Minnesota born and bred, a 28-year-old, played 56 games, scoring 3 goals and 5 assists, 8 points, but really trying to adjust to the system. I kind of give him less of slack. I really don't like to. I don't really bash him. Kevin Fiala, the former Predator, he gets traded in mid with the Mikael Granlund trade. A 22-year-old, very useful. He's played in the league for like every year he's been eligible since being drafted. It is kind of amazing to see how young he is, but he's still a very young player and so much time and room to grow. Just got an update from Denver. Timo Meyer scores a goal. It's 2-0 Sharks with 1:18 left in the first period there. So all updates from there coming up on the puck drops here. Marcus Foligno is an enforcer, but also a really good winger. Played in every single game this year, scoring 12 assists and scoring 7 goals, 19 points. Pretty good for him. Zach Parise, the oft-injured malign forward, Minnesota, and gets 74 games played in the league, 28 goals and 33 assists. He got to that New Jersey level that he hasn't reached since the first year of being with the Wild. And always been a clutch player, but he finds a way to really get through there. Matt Reed comes in, the 32-year-old with 12 games played, but only 1 goal and 1 point. Not very good at all. And Jason Zucker, personally, my favorite Minnesota Wild player. 81 games played, 21 goals and 21 assists for 42 points. Pretty good output, especially from Parise and Zucker, who are actually, personally, my 2 favorite players for the Minnesota Wild. Although I do believe they should trade Parise. Not that I don't like him, but I just think it's the best for Zach and for the team. Nothing against either. I believe the wingers, for me, did much better than the centers with the output. So I'm going to put them at a 1.7. Yeah, I really think they did much better. And I like the output, but more has to be done. Anthony Boteto, defenseman now. We're going defenseman. Another guy that was a former player in Nashville. 36 games played, no goals, with 3 assists, 3 points. I mean, for a defenseman, this isn't terrible. It's an offensive league, but it's pretty good. Jonas Brodin, who's been classified as a puck mover, a 25-year-old puck mover, playing in every single game, 4 goals and 14 assists. 18 points is normally nice for a defenseman, but since he's labeled as a fast puck-moving guy, and since he played in every single game, that point total needs to be higher. It needs to be. Matt Dumba, he played good early in the year, but he was injured very early on. 24-year-old, he's got a lot of room to grow. A smaller guy, but has so much room and space for his game. Played in only 32 games, scoring 12 goals and 10 assists. 22 points is very good for that, for being injured at that point. Just to update in the Sharks game, the first period has just ended 2-0 Sharks. Brad Hunt played in 42 games, the former Vegas Golden Knight, scoring 5 goals, notching 7 assists, and 12 points. Good output for Hunt, but not where it needed to be. Greg Paterno, he played in 80 games, scoring 1 goal and 6 assists. The output is not there. Nick Seeler, another defenseman, 25-year-old, playing in 11 games, scoring 2 goals, 5 assists, and 7 points. Again, I don't see the output, and the games aren't played enough. Jared Spurgeon played every single game for the Minnesota Wild. He scored 14 goals, 29 points, 29 assists, 43 points. I like the output a lot, but it could be a little higher. And then Ryan Suter, 34 years old, but still an excellent player in the National Hockey League. He also played in 82 games, every single game, but scored 7 goals only, but notched whopping 40 assists. Obviously, I like Suter and Spurgeon's development as well as what they played, and Dumba could have been even higher amount if he played more games. But the defense needs to improve and needs to be scoring more goals and getting more points as the league changes. I give it a 1.2. Look at the goaltenders. We'll first look at the big time starter, Devin Dubnyk, 32-year-old, 67 games played. Only one game of those he did not start. 31 and 28. The wins and losses is kind of something not really to look at. Save average 2.54, not bad. Save percentage not bad, but there were games where he completely controlled and took over. Like there was a one game, an anniversary type game for Toronto Maple Leafs. They played Toronto, and he absolutely was the best player in that game. He took over, and Minnesota ended up winning in regulation. So not great numbers this year, but still an insane player. 31-year-old Alex Stalock is back up, 21 and 16. No, he played in 21 games, started 16 of them, 6 and 8, 2.99 for the goals average, save percentage 0.899. Stalock needed to play better, he did not. Matt Robeson, and he's a young guy that's put on their record, but he did not start a game or play in a game. He was not dressed, but he is ready for any time. Just going to play, just called up, of course, from Iowa. Goaltending for me, I put it a 1.4. It was pretty good, but the stats and the numbers need to get a little more accurate and a little better, but it's okay with that. Look, of course, at the management or the coaching, actually, Bruce Boudreau, and do not know what's going to happen with him. But he seems to lead the locker room in a successful way. He's always been branded as a coach that couldn't win, but if you look at his statistics, and he has won in the playoffs at times, so I think he's done what they have to do, but I don't know if he is the right guy for the Minnesota Wild, but the players love him, so if they want to let him go, then that would be that. But for Boudreau's work, I probably give him a 1.1. The general manager, Paul Fenton, see, he was doing a good job because the Minnesota Wild have albatross contracts that they don't want, and they did a good move by trading by trading Mikael Granlund and getting rid of some of the money, but I don't know how much it was of. I don't know how much of help it would have been in just exact assistance it was, because Paul Fenton he re-signed Stahl, which was a really surprising move. But we'll see what he does with it because of the players and because of his attribute to winning and creating a more competitive roster with the cap issues. I'm going to give him a 1.4. You just don't really want to put the, you know what, I'll put him in 1.8. It's pretty good work. For the Minnesota Wild, a young player I really like, I would say probably to be Spurgeon. 29-year-old player, and he's just going to get into his prime. You always hear his name in Wild broadcasting games. He finds ways to get goals. He finds ways to get assists and get the puck to the net. And that's essential for one of the defensemen that they may need. So, older player needs to step up. I would absolutely say probably Zucker. Zucker is about a little younger, yes, than Spurgeon, but Spurgeon is, to me, still a young player. But Zucker, I love Jason Zucker. I think he's one of the best players on the team, but he's just not putting the point total that needs to be there. And I think he can be an absolute superstar. And he needs to get to that point, and it would so help the Wild, especially with one of his best teammates gone now in Mikael Granlund down in Nashville. He has to carry the load at some point at a well status. I would, with the Wild, I give them the final GPA of 2.0. I thought the season was decent, had some ups and downs, but I think missing the playoffs is better for them anyway. They could really reevaluate themselves and their franchise. So I like what they did. Thank you guys for listening and watching, paying attention. We have a lot of work to do more with these videos. Like, sub, watch them, comment, please on this channel. And the next one we will have coming up soon, as well as obvious updates of the hockey game, we're going to be doing a original six team, Le Canadien de Montreal, the Montreal Canadiens. Excuse my French, excuse my French. And that one will be next. So good night, everybody, and happy hockey.